You got a raise this year. 3.5%. Your boss called it a cost of living adjustment. Human Resources sent an email celebrating the company's commitment to competitive compensation. And yet, you're standing in a grocery store aisle holding a box of cereal that feels lighter than it did 6 months ago. You flip it over, same price, same brand, but something's different. The box is narrower. The weight dropped from 18 ounces to 15.2. You do the math in your head. That's a 15% price increase hidden inside an unchanged sticker. Your paycheck went up 3.5%. Official inflation was 2.7%. You should be 0.8% ahead. So why does it feel like you're falling behind? Because you are. And the reason has nothing to do with your choices, your discipline, or your budgeting skills. The number in your bank account isn't money, it's a belief. A shared agreement that this symbol, this digital entry, will buy roughly the same things tomorrow that it buys today. That belief is fracturing, not slowly, not obviously, but measurably, mathematically, in a way that institutions are designed to prevent you from seeing. For 700 years, one coin held its value. The Byzantine solidus, minted in Constantinople starting in 306 AD. 24 carats of pure gold, identical weight, identical purity, century after century, emperor after emperor. The solidus wasn't trusted because Byzantium was powerful. Byzantium was powerful because the solidus was trusted. Merchants from Venice to Baghdad to the Silk Road accepted it without question, not because they loved the Byzantine emperor, because the coin always contained what it claimed to contain. Then, in 1028, Emperor Romanos III did something unprecedented. He reduced the gold content, just slightly, just enough to stretch the treasury through a difficult year. His successor, Michael IV, a former money changer by profession, accelerated the reduction. But here's the part they don't teach you. By 1042, Byzantine officials introduced a new coin shape, the cyphate, cup-shaped instead of flat, harder to stack, harder to weigh, harder to compare against older coins. The shape wasn't functional, it was obscuring. Italian merchants in Constantinople's markets noticed, not because they had laboratories, because the new coins felt wrong, lighter, less substantial. They started demanding payment in old coins only. That's not a supply event, that's a belief event. One merchant's rejection spread to another, then to trading houses, then to international networks. By 1071, after Byzantine defeat at the Battle of Manzikert, the solidus collapsed from 58% gold to 33% in just 7 years. 700 years of trust, 7 years of collapse. Not because the gold ran out, because belief ended. Here's what's actually happening to your money. When institutions manipulate measurements to preserve trust, the manipulation itself becomes proof that trust is failing. Think of a dam. The dam holds back water through structural integrity. Small cracks appear. Engineers patch them. More cracks, more patches. Each repair is reported as successful. The dam is holding. Then one day, not gradually but suddenly, the water finds a path through accumulated weakness. The dam doesn't erode slowly. It fails catastrophically. Currency works the same way. Your dollar isn't a thing. It's a belief shared by 330 million Americans and really the entire global economy. That belief requires two foundations. First, the money supply grows roughly in proportion to what the economy actually produces. Second, institutions measuring that relationship report accurately. When the first foundation cracks, when money supply expands faster than productive capacity, institutions face a choice. They can acknowledge the expansion, accept the political cost, watch voters demand wage increases, pension adjustments, accountability, or they can obscure it. They can change how inflation is measured, introduce hedonic adjustments that mathematically reduce reported inflation. Assume that when you switch from beef to chicken, that's not getting poorer, that's consumer optimization. Record shrinkflation as same price, same value. Governments consistently choose obscurity. The incentive structure guarantees it. Visible 10% inflation triggers immediate political consequences. Hidden 10% inflation transfers wealth silently from currency holders to debt holders without legislation, without votes, without anyone to blame. So they hide it. And hiding has a cost. Between January 2020 and November 2025, the Federal Reserve created 29% of all US dollars that have ever existed. Not over a decade, over 5 years. M2 money supply, the measure of cash, checking accounts, savings, and money market funds expanded from $15.5 trillion to $22.3 trillion, a 44% increase. Official CPI over that same period reported cumulative inflation of roughly 19%. Here's the math. 44% more dollars, 19% price increase, real GDP growth of about 10%. Where did the other 15 percentage points go? Into assets you're trying to buy. housing, stocks, things excluded or underweighted in the measurement. Into quality degradation the measurement fails to capture. Into the gap between what you're told and what you live. You felt it at the grocery store. You feel it every time you check your bank account after payday. The chocolate doesn't taste the same because UK manufacturers replaced cocoa butter with palm oil, classified differently to avoid quality-based price adjustments. Your rent increased 12%, but official shelter inflation was reported unchanged in October 2025. The Bureau of Labor Statistics carried forward April data because they didn't have current numbers. Diane Swank, chief economist at KPMG, said of November's CPI report, "This report was full of guesses." And here's the thing about guesses in your favor versus guesses in theirs. The methodology is calibrated to err in one direction. Hedonic adjustments lower reported inflation. Substitution bias lowers it further. Quality adjustments that fail to capture shrinkflation lower it more. Each adjustment individually seems reasonable. Cumulatively, they suppress reported inflation by roughly 2 to 3 percentage points annually below what you actually experience. Year after year, decade after decade. Right now, you're watching this with money in a checking account, a savings account, maybe a retirement fund. That money is purchasing power. And every day it sits there, a quiet transfer is occurring. Not through theft, not through fraud, through the gap between what's measured and what's real. But here's what no one talks about. The gap isn't an accident. It's not a limitation of measurement technology. It's not that inflation is hard to track. The gap is where currencies go to die. The Byzantine merchants didn't have inflation calculators. They had hands that could feel when a coin was lighter than it should be. You have something similar. You have the experience of your own life, the sense that the numbers you're told don't match the reality you live. That sense is accurate. And when enough people share that sense simultaneously, something happens that no central bank, no government, no institution can reverse. In 301 AD, Roman Emperor Diocletian tried to restore trust through force. His edict on maximum prices fixed approximately 1,400 prices and wages. Everything from camel hair to vulture feathers to specific grades of loincloth. The denarius had lost 90 to 95% of its silver content over the previous century. Everyone knew it. Everyone had adjusted their behavior accordingly. Diocletian's logic was simple. If prices are fixed by law, inflation cannot manifest. The edict failed completely. Farmers refused to sell grain at controlled prices for worthless coins. Shopkeepers couldn't replenish inventory when costs exceeded controlled revenue. Food riots erupted, the opposite of the stability price controls claimed to provide. Here's the lesson that cost Rome its economy. Once consensus fractures, no administrative decree can restore it. You cannot force people to believe. This isn't about ancient Rome, it's about your rent. The gap between what institutions report and what you experience, that's not economic noise. That's the sound of consensus cracking. When your landlord raises rent 12% and official shelter inflation reports 0% monthly change, someone is lying. When your grocery bill increases 8% and CPI reports 2.7%, the measurement has failed. When your wages rise 3.5% against 2.7% reported inflation, but you can afford less than last year, you are living in the gap. And the gap is widening, not because of pandemic supply chains, not because of corporate greed, not because of policy mistakes that will self-correct, because of architecture. Here's the sequence that matters. Step 1. Money supply expands faster than productive capacity. This happened, 44% in 5 years. Step 2. Institutions choose obscurity over acknowledgement. This happened. Hedonic adjustments, substitution bias, carry forward imputation. Step 3. Credibility gap opens between reported and experienced reality. This is happening. You're living it. Step 4. Consensus erodes as households, merchants, trading partners reject official measurements. This is beginning. Step 5. Currency substitution as economic actors seek alternative stores of value. Gold at all-time highs. Bitcoin adoption accelerating. Real estate treated as monetary refuge. Step 6. Collapse when rejection reaches critical mass. The collapse isn't a supply event. Byzantine gold content fell 95% before collapse occurred. Roman denarii circulated at 5% silver for decades. The Song dynasty printed paper long after trust evaporated. Collapse occurs when belief ends. That belief shift happens faster than physical debasement because trust is networked. When your trading partner rejects the currency, you must too, or find yourself holding paper that no one wants. The question isn't whether the dollar will collapse. The question is whether you'll see it happening before it does. The Italian merchants in Constantinople saw it. They demanded old coins when new coins felt wrong. The farmers under Diocletian saw it. They refused to sell grain for worthless metal. Can you see it? So here's what just happened to you. You hold dollars in your wallet, your bank account, your retirement fund. Those dollars aren't physical objects with intrinsic value. They're shared beliefs, agreements between strangers that this symbol will hold purchasing power over time. That belief requires accurate measurement. When you're told inflation is 2.7% but experience 6 to 8%, the gap isn't statistical noise, it's credibility erosion. Every day that gap persists, more households notice, more businesses adjust pricing, more trading partners question. The network of belief develops cracks, and belief networks don't erode gradually. They hold and hold and hold until suddenly they don't. 700 years of Byzantine stability, 7 years of collapse. Not because the gold ran out, because belief ended. Most people will never see this. They'll check their paycheck, notice it doesn't stretch as far, blame themselves for not budgeting better. They'll work harder, save more, wonder why it never seems to be enough. You don't have to wonder anymore. The number in your account isn't money, it's trust, and you can feel it slipping away. One lighter cereal box, one impossible down payment, one raise that leaves you poorer than before. That feeling is accurate. Hold on to it. Because when enough people share it simultaneously, what happens next isn't a policy problem that can be fixed. It's a belief event. And belief events don't send warnings. They arrive.